two-time All-Star, won a 2005 World Series with the White Sox as well. AJ, good morning to you. Appreciate you being with us. And I got to ask you the most obvious question of all at this point in the season. What the hell is going on with the Mets?
Oh, well, geez, the Mets are going to Met, right? I don't know.
Yeah, right?
We tune into Foul Territory. We seem to discuss the Mets and the White Sox every day because they both are playing very below what we thought they would. Man, the Mets, injuries to the pitching staff is the number one thing to the Mets. Verlander's only had 2 starts. Scherzer's hurt again. Quintana, Carrasco. Senga's been okay, not great, right? The lineup hasn't hit other than Alonso and Nimmo. Really, the rest of the lineup has been Lindor hasn't got it going yet. Alvarez has been okay since he's come up, but he wasn't even supposed to be on the team. Beatty's been okay, but he's really struggling defensively. It's just been a cluster of errors for the Mets, and they'll get it turned around at some point, but can they catch the Braves? I don't know.
All right, so we came out hot out of the gates, but let's backtrack a little bit. Tell us about your show, Foul Territory. Is it just baseball? Is it betting? What is it? Tell us all about it.
Well, it's baseball mainly, but we also do betting. And listen, as somebody that knew nothing about betting before this show started, it has been a quick master class on betting from Scott Braun, who is the host of the show. He's been into this for a long time. I've never really gotten into it, but now I know all the words and all the little sayings you guys have, and it's fun now. It's great. BetMGM does a great job with us. We talk baseball and Foul Territory, myself, Scott Braun, Eric Kratz, Todd Frazier, Adam Jones, and we just talk like baseball players talk. And then all of a sudden they say, hey, by the way, we have to pick a lock of the day. I didn't realize how hard it was to pick one game a day that you think, hey, I can win. Because the games you want to pick a lot of times, at least for me, you look at the money line, you say, okay, well, the Dodgers should beat the Oakland A's. Well, then it's minus 350, and you're like, oh, my gosh, okay, well, I don't want to put 350 up to win 100. So then you start looking for better value, and then you lose, and you're like, well, gosh darn it, man, why didn't I just pick the sure winner, right? So it's a fun thing every day we do, but it's become really hard, and my family makes fun of me because I'll stay up and watch like a late game on the West Coast, and they're like, why are you staying up? I'm like, because I just want to know if my bet hits.
Right. The worst part for me is during college basketball season when it's like I'm watching Kennesaw State and Marist. I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like I gotta take a break from everything here. So you mentioned your White Sox, and I said, what the hell's going on with the Mets? But the White Sox clearly are a team that they're struggling to put up runs. Lost yesterday in Kansas City. Is there any way, do you see them a way forward for them to put it together, or is this kind of who they are at the quarter point of the season?
Well, what did Dennis Green said, we are who we thought they are, or they are, whatever the famous line was about the Bears, right? Right now, if you're 13-26, guess what? You are who we think you are at this moment. And right now, they're not very good. You can say injuries. You can blame whatever you want to say. You know, Tim Anderson's missed time. Moncada's missed time. Eloy Jimenez is out again. But the pitching hasn't been good. And that was supposed to be a strength of this team, especially the starting staff and the bullpen. And they've struggled. From Lance Lynn to Michael Kopech, Dylan Cease, who was great last year, struggled. So it has just been a combination of everything going wrong, kind of like with the Mets. You can say injuries, but then they haven't hit. So they're very similar in that, except the Mets are hovering around 500, whereas the White Sox have just fallen in the tank.
Right, but at least the White Sox didn't spend like the entire budget of the state of New York on their team. So sometimes it's correlated to the price tag. Okay, so
but hey, well, hold on. Before you go there now, the White Sox have almost a $200 million payroll. Now, it's not the Mets level, but it's like $193 million, I think, which is like 7th in baseball. So it's not like they're the Oakland A's and have no payroll, or the Pirates. They have a large payroll.
Well, if you look at their roster, like it looks like a team that should be good. What do you think's going on with the pitching? Because I feel like that's the main part. Because you look at those names, guys like Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, who I believe has thrown either a perfect game or a no-hitter. These are guys that have a track record of success. They are not, just one-and-done guys. Do we expect any regression back to a good start from what we've seen from some of these starters?
I certainly hope. Listen, I'm a White Sox fan. I certainly hope they do.
Yeah.
I want them to do it as a White Sox fan. But gosh, you're 39 games in. You're almost a quarter of the way into the season, and you look up Lance Lynn has a 7 ERA. That just doesn't happen.
And the strike zone soon probably being automated. How does that change the game for catchers? Because for so long, pitch framing has been a big part of catchers' arsenal. Do you think this is going to change, the trajectory of like how catchers are brought up in the system? How do you think this changes the game?
Well, it changes it because framing won't matter. They're just going to care, can you hit and can you throw a guy out when he steals? And those are going to become the big things, because if you don't have to frame a pitch, then why does it matter how you catch it? If it's just automatically called a strike, just knock it down and keep the guy from going to the next base. And if he steals, try to throw him out. And can you get a hit or not? So the thing for me with it is, you know what you're going to see a lot more of? Big curveballs, like the Barry Zito, Rick Sutcliffe curveball that start above your head and end up in the ground. Because all the strike zone has to do is nip a part of your knee and nip a part of the plate. So if it comes almost straight down like an ephus pitch, so if we're looking at it like this and the ball comes straight down and it nips the strike zone, guess what? Even though it bounces right on top of the plate, but it's coming straight down, that's a strike in the automated system. So you're going to see a lot more big, slow curveballs, and hitters better get used to it, because that's going to be called a strike from the automated strike zone.
We're talking with AJ Pierzynski. Make sure you check him out on Foul Territory TV. Two-time MLB All-Star, won the 2005 World Series with the White Sox. AJ, who is a team right now that you're looking at and you say, all right, maybe this isn't an ideal start to the season, but if things break right, they have plenty of talent on their roster, this is a team that's going to be very dangerous come late in the year?
Well, the Mets. We already talked about the Mets. But if you, because you have Verlander and you have Scherzer, right? And if they're right, does anybody want to go into let's say a 3-game wild card series and say, hey, guess who we get the first 3 games? Scherzer, Verlander, and then if they Quintana, whether it's Senga, whether it's Carrasco, whoever that third guy is, those aren't 3 pitchers you want to face at any time. And then if they get into a 5-game series again, you're going to get Scherzer and Verlander and the same guys. So that's the team, along with the Padres. I think the Padres are going to get in, but do you really want to face their starting pitching with that lineup in a short series or in any series? Philly's another team I look at and say, okay, they have a great chance because of Nola and Wheeler and their lineup, like they made a run last year. But for me right now, the most disappointing team is the Mets, and they have the best shot to make a deep run because of if they can get them back.
All right, so here in the sports betting world, we always try to use numbers, and there's like 1,000 of them when it comes to baseball. But how much do you think clubhouse chemistry matters when it comes to fading or riding with some of these teams? Like, what are some of the factors that you think actually matter that are not on the stat sheet?
Well, one thing I'm deciding now that I've learned, and I should have started this at the beginning of the year, is just bet on the Rays every game, no matter who they're playing, and just bet the money line sometimes, because they're 30-9. So just think, if you just went money line the whole year, you'd be 30-9 on the year, which of course no one saw coming. As far as chemistry goes, unless you're in there every day and you're actually seeing what's going to happen, you don't know chemistry is great when you're winning and terrible when you're losing. Even though I've been on bad teams and we got along great, we're like, man, we're the nicest guys in the world. We love each other, but we just can't win a game. So chemistry to me is all about winning. But the number, if I'm looking at something, I'm like, man, the Rays. And then if I'm looking on the other side, I'm like, just bet against the A's every game. I know that, again, like last night, I took Evaldi over 6.5 strikeouts for my lock of the day. He had, I think, 11 in 8 innings. It was an easy bet because the A's aren't very good offensively, and Evaldi strikes everybody out. So there's a lot of times where I just look at it and say, okay, who's playing who, starting pitching matchup, because to me, those are what are the easiest things to, hopefully, as long as someone doesn't get injured or have a bad start, which with some of these ace guys, it doesn't happen as much, and say, okay, like Dylan Cease the other day was over 5 strikeouts against somebody. I'm like, well, that's an easy number against whoever he's pitching against, because if he goes 5 innings, he's going to get 7 or 8, and sure enough, he had like 6 strikeouts in like 3 innings. So you're just like, okay, easy win. So to me, it's more about the starting pitching and then finding matchups that are favorable for props like that, because listen, picking games, like we talked about earlier, with the pluses and the minuses, to me, that's too hard because too many things can go wrong.
He's a host on Foul Territory TV, had more than 2,000 hits in a 19-year career in Major League Baseball, 2-time Major League Baseball All-Star as well, and great at refreshing his computer. AJ Pierzynski. AJ, great insight, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. And if you ever have any tips for me, you can text me, you can DM me, whatever it takes on one of these platforms. And I'm always looking for tips and easy wins.